Good morning, staff and students of La Junta High School. Today we are gathered to celebrate Veterans Day to honor those brave men and women who have served in the military of the United States of America. The STAR class that I teach, students taking an active role, is responsible for putting together today's festivities. These young men and women have been preparing for this day for some time. I'd appreciate it if we give them and our choir, our band, our guest speaker, your undivided attention. Please silence your cell phones at this moment. Refrain from any side conversations, as today we're here to honor the less than 1% of our country's population who has been and continues to defend our nation and our way of life. Our time together will be short, yet hopefully carry a message of self-sacrifice and giving back to your community. I want to join with me in showing our appreciation to our veterans on this special day. At this time, I ask everybody to please stand for the presentation of colors. If you're wearing a hat, gentlemen, please remove your hats. And after the presentation of the colors, we will go directly into the national anthem. Thank you. You can take your seats. For those that you don't know me, my name is William Schmidt. I teach here at the La Junta High School. I teach English class. I teach a STAR Leadership Junior ROTC class. I coach a few sports. But most importantly, To me, I feel I have been a member of the United States military. And today's a day that I believe we need to stop, reflect, and honor those men and women who have served our nation in uniform. So there will be a few things today that you might see. If you've been here before, you're going to say, hey, we've seen this before. And it's great that we are seeing it again because it solidifies the facts of why we're here, what we're honoring, and more importantly, who we're honoring. So the first thing that we're going to do today is led by one of our very own in our STAR leadership class. We are going to do the folding of the American flag. And this is going to be narrated by Ileana Garcia. The flag detail will be Natan Rogers, Justin Thompson, and Bryce Bickle.
The folding flag ceremony represents the same religious principles on which our country was originally founded. The portion of the flag denoting honor is the canton of blue containing the stars representing the states our veterans served in uniform. The canton filled of blue dresses from left to right and is inverted when draped as a pall on a casket of a veteran who has served our country in uniform. In the armed forces of the United States, at the ceremony of retreat, the flag is lowered, folded in a triangle fold, and kept under watch throughout the night as a tribute to our nation's honored dead. The next morning, it is brought out and at the ceremony of reveille, run aloft as a symbol of our belief in the resurrection of the body. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in the eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of life for the defense of our country to attain a peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature. For as American citizens, trusting in God, it is to Him we trust in times of peace as well as in times of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country, for in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all her enemies, whether they be found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day, and to honor Mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, for he too has given his sons and daughters for the defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of a Hebrew citizen, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eyes of a Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies, in their eyes, God the Father, the Son, and Holy Ghost. When the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our nation's motto, "In God we trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington, and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. In the military, there's lots of symbolism, and the folding of the flag and the very many folds that there are, they all represent something, and I hope everybody was listening. In addition to the folding of the flag, we're going to what we set up the POW MIA, Prisoner of War Missing in Action table. There's one that's already set up in our Commons area where our veterans display is. And what we're going to do today is we're going to set it up in front of you, explaining each and every portion and step along the way. So hopefully it brings a little bit more meaning to you of what is already set up in the Commons area. So without further ado, we will begin that. The symbolism of the missing man table. The empty place represents Americans, prisoners of war, and those deemed missing in action who were or are missing from each of the services: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Space Force, and civilians. Each item on the missing man table represents the emotions and feelings reserved for those who did not come home. The ceremony symbolizes that they are with us here in spirit. All Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our nation's call to serve and who have fought for our freedom with honor. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for our missing men. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single red rose displayed in a vase reminds us of the lives of these Americans and their loved ones and friends who keep the faith while seeking answers. The red ribbon symbolizes our continued determination to account for our missing. A slice of lemon reminds us of their bitter fate, captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families who long for answers after decades of uncertainty. The lighted candle reflects our hope for their return alive or dead. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain us and those lost from our country, founded as one nation under God. The glass is inverted, symbolizing their inability to share a toast. The chair is empty, the seat that remains unclaimed at the table. All who have served alongside them, we who have donned the same proud uniform, being sworn to the same faith and allegiance, we will never forget their sacrifice. Until the day they return home or find eternal peace, we will remember. Again, let's give them a round of applause. For those who have never done anything like this, getting up in front of a large group of people, especially if you're young, can really mess with your nerves, and so they've done a remarkable job. I want to start off this morning by, again, welcoming everybody, and I want to bring welcome and some recognition to who we have here in our presence. We have the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Patrick Buckle. We have Mrs. Foxhoven, Principal Foxhoven, Mrs. Woodyard, and Mr. Goheen, along with our special guest that I'm going to introduce here pretty soon, Mr. Shiflett. I'm going to start off by doing something that I've been wanting to do for a few months now. I'm going to be presenting our school with a framed picture and poster that had been given to me by a lady by the name of Betty Blanco on behalf of American Legion Post 9. She intended to present this to me at a military appreciation banquet back in August, but because of football, I had prior commitments and I couldn't attend this ceremony. The backstory of this goes far back. In fact, it goes back to 1991. And I'm going to apologize now if I lose my ability to not cry. And you'll understand why. You see, I was a junior in high school, but there was another person who was a senior in 1991. His name was Brian Cowdrey. He was a senior, and he graduated from Lahana High School. He was very involved, a very, very active member of our school. He was a part of the speech and debate team. He was a member of the cheer squad, National Honor Society, Art Club, Lahana High School Theater. Brian was involved in so many things. He was a person that was loved by so many. And Brian was a person that could bring positive energy to anything. He was well-liked, and it wasn't just a popularity thing, it was because of who he was. He was just an admirable person, and everybody loved him. And he had a spirit of giving. In fact, upon graduation, Brian looked into the possibility of military service. A few years after completing high school, Brian made an important decision in his life. Probably the most impactful club that Brian ended up ever being a member of was the United States Army. After high school, Brian married his high school sweetheart, Jill Bolliker, who is a cousin of Mrs. Burr and myself, and he enlisted in the United States Army. And together they began a family and a career. Brian enlisted as a flight medic, and he eventually served 3 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq. He and I were together in Iraq at the same time, but we were never able to meet up because of logistics and life. Brian was a leader of leaders. He was one whom his unit depended upon him carrying the torch for those nearly enlisted, of every enlisted. Those who needed guidance, those who needed training, Brian provided that. Brian made the Army his life. And on October 11th, 2013, while on his final combat deployment, during a mission to extract friendly forces from a mountaintop high in the mountains of Afghanistan, on a cold and rainy night, he flew into harm's way. He was flying in there to save the lives of 3 more U.S. servicemen before he was tragically killed attempting to save 1 more person on that mountaintop, high in the Kunar province of Afghanistan. Brian gave his life in defense of his country and his wounded comrades. Brian was a loyal and dedicated family man, a father, a husband, a cousin to many, including myself, and he was also a former Lahana Tiger. Although this day today is set aside to remember our veterans, I wanted to bring a special remembrance of a very special former student of Lahana High School who will forever be remembered as a hero to me and a hero to many. I want to present Mrs. Foxhoven, Principal Foxhoven, and I would ask her to come up here as I just present her with this picture of Brian and also with a printed poster that was given to us as well, and hopefully she'll find an area within our school to display this in prominence. Thank you very much. I'm going to briefly continue with the same story, but I wanted to stop there. Fate works in people's lives in mysterious ways. On my 6th and final combat deployment, which happened to be to Afghanistan in 2019, I crossed paths with the last human being on earth who saw Sergeant Brian Cowdery alive. It was only by fate, chance of God's guidance that this happened. Finishing my shift of unloading dead and wounded combat troops who had been medically airlifted from the combat field to where I was at, Craig Joint Theater Hospital in Bagram, Afghanistan, I ran upon some other combat medics from the famous dust-off unit who had heard the many stories of the now legendary Sergeant Cowdery. Their first sergeant, a man by the name of Sergeant Bostic, was the person leading this group of air combat medics during their deployment in Afghanistan. To make a long story short, I ventured to their compound and introduced myself to this man. When I uttered the words, "I understand that you know Sergeant Brian Cowdery," Sergeant Bostic's face immediately turned pale, and he realized that something special was about to happen. After almost 8 years since his death, I had flown literally to the other side of the world, randomly crossed paths with this person, and finally heard the account of the last day of Brian's life, to include details of how his life ended, saving the lives of all those injured U.S. servicemen. Needless to say, many tears were shed and hugs embraced. There are many times in our lives that we will never forget because of the impact that they played on the forming of our character. This happens to have been one of the most important times of my life, and I will forever cherish the irony of that day. I will never forget the magnitude of Brian's sacrifice and the impact that it has had on my life. At this time, I would like to introduce our guest speaker for today. But before I have him come up, I am going to give you a little bit of background about this person. Many of you who take art at this school already know who this person is. Kirk Shiflett was born in 1961 in Pueblo, Colorado, the youngest of 5 children, and graduated from Pueblo Central High School in 1980. Upon graduation at the age of 19, he enlisted in the United States Navy. Attending boot camp in Illinois, he served in Operations Urgent Fury in Grenada, Support Democracy in Able Manor, Colonel Blitz, hot plant transfers to the Egyptian Navy, Wolf Hunt, Chinese PLA visit, the Cold War, NATO, NATO deployment, Navy Joint Interagency Task Force, counter-drug, maritime interception. He was involved in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and the War on Terrorism. He retired after 23 years of service from the U.S. Navy in May of 2003 at Fort Carson, Colorado, where he served as the command chief at the rank of Chief Petty Officer. After the service, he used his 9/11 GI Bill and graduated, cum laude, in studio art from Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction. He received a heart transplant in May 2018 due to the toxic conditions while he was in service. Kirk is married to his bride, Rose Marie Garcia Shiflett. He has 4 children, 14 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Kirk is also a member of the Fleet Reserve Association, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the Disabled American Veterans. He has a painting in the National Archives Combat Art Collection in Washington, D.C. He is a member of the Oil Painters of America, the Pueblo Art Guild, and the Fremont Center for the Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest speaker, veteran of the Navy, La Junta High School art teacher, Mr. Kirk Shiflett.
Good morning. I'm United States Navy veteran, retired damage control chief Kirk Shiflett. So first of all, I would like to have a moment of silence for those veterans that couldn't be here today. So just for a moment, if you could bow your head. Thank you. Veterans, administration, teachers, students, parents, friends, and family, thank you for having me here today. I'm truly honored and humbled to have the opportunity to speak with you today. My own family has a history of service. My father served in the Korean War. My wife's father served in the Korean and Vietnam War and received the Purple Heart for action in Vietnam. My uncle, 1 brother, and nephews served in the Marine Corps. A cousin served in the Air Force, and my son just retired from the U.S. Navy 2 months ago as a Senior Chief Explosive Ordnance Navy diver. In our family, Veterans Day is always a memorable holiday that honors all those who have served. In the United States military, the Army National Guard, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and now the Space Force. Please allow me to give a very, very brief history lesson about veterans and Armistice Day since we're in school. We had World War I in 1914, and it was a many-country 5-year war. It began 111 years ago, like I said, in 1914, and it ended in 1918, even though there was some crossover into the war after 1918. The United States fought in this devastating world war from 1917 to 1918. Unfortunately, during this war, the United States had to come up with a gas mask to save the lives of the soldiers that worked and fought in the trenches because the Germans came up with mustard gas to destroy the lungs of our soldiers. In 1918, at the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, that is 11 o'clock on November 11th, the warring countries signed an agreement for the war to be over. This was called Armistice, the end of all wars. On that day, people throughout the world were very happy. They celebrated because no one else had to go to war that they thought, and that was the war to end all wars. People went out in the streets, they danced, they laughed, they blew horns, whistles, and sang songs. The people at the time very wishfully thought that there would be no more wars. Well, we all know that isn't true. In fact, World War I was nicknamed the war to end all wars. United States President Woodrow Wilson at the time designated November 11th as Armistice Day, a holiday to honor all those heroes that died in World War I. Over time, the holiday's name was changed to Veterans Day, and the purpose was changed to honor all those who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Not all veterans have been to combat. A lot of them have, but most veterans that serve, whether in combat or not, have supported all war and non-war efforts to bring the defense and freedom to this country. I spent many months abroad on 4 guided missile frigates in various operations around the world. In war, counter-drug operations, and Marine interdiction operations. I would go from one ship, get on a inflatable raft, and go search vessels that we were doing marine interdictions to. There was teams of 6 of us that would do this. And I got to tell you, through all that and all the different times, the worst part about war and the service outside of war, the very worst part is being away from your family and friends. That's the thing that gnaws on you the most. When you're away, you become friends with other brothers and sisters in the service, but the things you remember while you're in service and you're doing action is all the high school friends you remembered, the things that you did. Your family, are they back home? They're eating Thanksgiving dinner without you. They're doing Christmas without you, all those things. That is the worst part of the military duty, is leaving family and friends. I'm sure every veteran and veterans' families can relate to that, having experienced it themselves. Many veterans, while serving their duties, accepted new friends and became brothers and sisters in service in the country. I still have a lot of brothers and sister veterans that we connect through on Facebook, and we talk about a lot of times that and when we served, all the different areas we were, and some of them are very, very funny stories that we went through. Some of it tragic, but some of it very funny. Right now, as we gather today, thousands of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen are on the job around the world. They're protecting America as we sit here. They're on duty all the time. Even when you're sleeping in your bed, there's a military person on watch protecting our freedom while you're getting ready for school. As a Navy man, my thoughts today turn to the sailors deployed around the world, around the clock, protecting and defending America on the world's oceans. These sailors are on ships, submarines, aircraft, on the ground, in various dangerous areas around the world, protecting America's freedoms. They'll be there, like I said, when you're sleeping, every Saturday, every Sunday while you're watching a pro football game, and especially during Veterans Day, they're there serving. And they'll be missing their families and friends and loved ones back home. There are many stories of veterans I'd like to share. However, I thought it appropriate on this day that I would share 2 stories of veterans I met while serving at the Joint Logistics Agency at Fort Carson, Colorado. One earned a Medal of Honor. The other one was a prisoner of war. For those of you that don't know, a Medal of Honor is the highest honor for valor a military person can receive, either alive or posthumously, for their service. It's the bravest action that our country holds high. So we used to invite people while I was at Fort Carson, and from time to time with the Navy League, we would ask people to come over and speak. So the first one that came over was Private Clausen. He was a Marine veteran that served in Squadron 263 Marine Aircraft Group 16 with the 1st Marine Aircraft Wing. I met Private Clausen at Fort Carson, and he still had a very deep concern for his Marines and people that were still away, as well as, I hate to say it, a deep hatred for the Vietnam that he had fought, the Vietnam people that he had fought. His certificate reads, and I have a copy of it here that he presented to me. His certificate reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty." Now keep in mind that Private Clausen was an E3. He was sleeping in a tent that morning, early morning, that he had to go. He was one of the only few enlisted privates that could actually guide and fly a helicopter. So he was woken up all of a sudden out of a dead sleep saying that Marines were pinned down. And it goes on to speak. While serving with Marine Medium Helicopter Squadron 23 during operations against enemy forces and participating in helicopter rescue mission to extract elements of the platoon in which they had inadvertently entered a minefield while attacking enemy positions, Private Clausen skillfully guided the helicopter pilot to a landing area. Now, his certificate reads that, but if you're an adult and you want to talk to me about that later, about that citation, there's a way that Private Clausen skillfully guided that aircraft. He went to the landing area cleared by one of the several mine explosions with 11 people wounded, 11 Marines wounded. 1 dead and the remaining 8 Marines holding their positions for fear of detonating other mines. Private Clausen quickly leaped from the helicopter in the face of enemy fire, through a minefield, across the extremely hazardous field, to assist, carrying casualties to the waiting chopper and placing them abroad and aboard. Despite the ever-present threat of future mine explosions, he continued his valiant efforts, leaving the comparatively safe area of the helicopter. He left that helicopter 6 separate times into that minefield under fire, in occasions to carry out rescue efforts for his fellow Marines. While he was carrying one of the wounded, another mine detonated, killing a corpsman and wounding 3 other men. Only when he was certain that all Marines were safely aboard did he signal the pilot to lift the helicopter out of the danger area. The President Nixon, signed his certificate, by the courageous, determined, and inspiring efforts in the face of the utmost danger, Private First Class Clausen upheld the highest tradition of the Marine Corps and U.S. Naval Service. The other one is about a prisoner of war that I met. He was in a place called Hanoi Hilton for 6 years. I met John McGrath, at the time, Captain John McGrath, through his son, Lieutenant McGrath. I served with Lieutenant McGrath at Fort Carson. He had told me the story about a casualty assistance calls officer knocking on his door when he was 5 years old. And he greeted the door with his mother while the casualty assistant calls officer gently told the mother that her husband was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. John McCain was an aircraft pilot on an A-6 off an aircraft carrier in the United States Navy. He wrote a book, Prisoner of War, 6 years in Hanoi. John McCain was also an artist. He illustrated what he went through and the constant pain he went through while he was a Vietnam veteran prisoner in the Hanoi Hilton. In that book, it's extremely graphic and describing the pain and the torture in which he went through. His plane was shot down over Vietnam as A-6. His plane started to crash, and he jettisoned from his aircraft in a parachute. As soon as John McCain landed on the ground, the Vietnamese were all over him. He didn't have a chance. Apparently, they didn't know what zippers were. They tore off his clothes. They tore off his boots. They cut off his clothes with knives. And by jerking his boots off, they dislocated his legs. Right away, he started to get injured as they drug him to the prison. John McCain was captured in 1967. A few issues united the American people during the Vietnam War, and Hanoi Hilton was one of them. He was a self-taught artist, like I said, and if you read the book, then you can see all the things that John McCain went through. It's a sad story of a veteran who had to heal himself on a tiny wooden cot that the Vietnamese made him as he would put his leg against the wall to try to heal himself while he was being tortured when he had to rest. He, after service, after he was released from Hanoi Hilton, he went on to teach at the Naval Academy to teach many pilots how to fight and survive in war. John McCain has now passed, but his son is still alive and his mother, and they still remember those days. So please, if you're not a veteran, find someone in your life who is a vet and ask them about their service or say thank you. The more we talk about what we do and the impact of military service that was in our lives, the better able we're hold it up as an example of excellence. To all veterans here today, I sincerely thank you for your service and your sacrifice. Thank you. I share your pride in being able to say you have served in the greatest military in the world. Thank you for all honoring veterans today and showing your support for our heroes past and present. May God bless our veterans. May God bless all those who are serving in harm's way today and every day. And may God bless the La Junta Junior Senior High School family. And may God continue to bless America. Thank you again very much for having me. Again, I appreciate working here at the La Junta Junior Senior High School. Thank you.
So, as a token of our appreciation, I'm presenting this coffee mug. Well, coffee mugs hold a dear place in my heart. So this is inscripted. It says Kirk Shiflett, United States Navy, 1980, 2003. There is an LJ engraved on it, and on the other side is the Navy emblem. So from us to you, thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. That's great. Thank you. Thank you to the box. Yeah.
At this time, we are going to have a recognition for our veterans, and the Lahana High School Choir is going to perform military branch songs. When they do, if you're a veteran and your branch song is playing, we invite you to please stand up and be recognized during that time. You can do that, I guess, yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Langston, and the choir. Beautiful job. Great job. Again, I want to thank everybody for your time. I want to thank you, students, for paying attention and being attentive. This is something that I think is in the best interest of everybody, that we listen to those stories. Just like Mr. Shiflett said, listen to the stories of our veterans. We are going to close now with the retirement of the colors. I would ask that everybody please stand again as we have students Ezekiel Casillas and Bryce Bickle retire the colors, and remain standing, and please remain standing as Mrs. Langston plays taps as well. Thank you, everyone. I want to again thank our guest speaker, Mr. Shiflett, our music department, the maintenance department who helped set everything up, our administration, our star students, and most importantly, our veterans. At this time, I would like to please excuse the 7th grade first so that they can go first and go to lunch. And then after them, we'll have our 8th grade go, and then eventually our high schoolers. Thank you for those of you from the community that came. Have a great day.